The important thing to remember about a constitution is that it sets out the rules for the government. And those rules have to be contained in institutions. And those institutions will comprise a legislature. That is a place that makes law. You can't do without law in a democracy. And we have to have an executive, someone who carries out the government on a day-to-day basis. And in New Zealand, that is the cabinet and the public service. And you also must have a judiciary, and the judiciary have to interpret the laws, because if the same people who made the law both enforced it and adjudicated on it, you'd have a perfect recipe for a dictatorship. In a democracy, you need to divide the powers up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Tripp, the President of Australians for Better Government, and welcome back to another edition of the Political Philosophy Masterclass. This is our 5th edition, and hopefully you've been on this journey with us. If you haven't, please check out the other episodes, because we're going in, I guess you might say, chronological order through things, and we've got the political philosophy master himself, Dr. Christopher Reynolds. How are you going, mate?
I'm pretty good, mate. I really like that title, Master. We could move it up to Sir or Excellency. I'd be really pleased. But anyway, we'll stick with Master.
Yeah, no, good stuff. Firstly, congratulations on the weekend. We accepted you as a committee member of Australians for Better Government, so welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. I thought you were going to congratulate me on finishing another book, which taken me years. And, I've got grey hair and all the rest of it, and stress like anything, but I finished another book, and that's really important. Leaders and Larrikins, Great Australian Stories.
Yeah, no, that is important, and you have been talking about it, but for people that might not have heard about it yet or want to learn more, what can you tell them?
Oh, well, when I finished the book, What a Capital Idea, as I was writing it, I kept coming across people, and I thought, well, you could just write up the sort of story and the history. This is the date and this is what they did. And I thought, no, there's just all these interesting characters. So I put an interesting character at the end of most chapters. And then when I finished the book, I thought, well, there's just something in that. And people were talking to me, how do you make the book into a movie? And I rolled around thinking about that. And then I decided that I was going to do Leaders and Larrikins, 20 great Australian characters. And I was really going to get into knowing them. And because I think in terms of telling stories, then, like the dude Lachlan Macquarie, I drove around for weeks thinking, how do I become Lachlan Macquarie? Who was his wife and how did they react and what was going on? So eventually, because I'd set it up, I knew the scenes and the people and what the decisions were, I then could walk on set. So I take the reader on set with me. And so you're in the story. So it reads like it's a novel, but it ain't a novel in as much as this is all actual events. So it's an amazing sort of a style that no historian has ever even attempted to do. So you're going to get it, 100% both barrels in terms of all these incredible people in these stories. So I could just tell as I was writing it, this is going to be so popular. So it's at the printers now. The covers look fantastic. And so you're going to get into all these incredible people. Some you know and some you don't. But you're going to have a lot of fun.
And when are we going to get a chance to purchase it?
Yeah. Well, I got off the phone with I don't mean an argument, with a discussion with the printer yesterday about, why they haven't done things. I'm going to get a number of books because I've got a major talking event in Sydney in the middle of August. And by the time that was supposed to be ready to ship in 2 weeks, well, now they've put it off to 6 weeks to the end of August. So I'm having to fly some in for this special thing. But if they finish it by the end of August, then we're looking at the 1st of September at the earliest before we can purchase the book.
Yeah, great. I mean, it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to the launches, and I'm looking forward to you doing the speaking tours. I'm sure you'll start, traversing the country like you have done for What a Capital Idea. Mate, exciting times ahead.
Yeah, I've talked to more than 8,000 people in 18 months sold 2,500 books in 100 speaking engagements. So that must say something about how people are interested in Australian history. You think, don't you?
Yeah, no, definitely. All right. So if we get into today, so as I said, this is the fifth one we've done. We did the Constitution first, and then we talked about Christian values, and we talked about democracy, and then the last one a fortnight ago we talked about responsible government and what that meant. Excuse me. But that relates to 4 questions, and those questions were: what is the nature of man? What is the nature of God? What is the nature of society? And what is the meaning of life? And you've discussed those 4 in the past, but you're going to unpack the 4th one today, which is what is the meaning of life? And that relates to solutions on how we better our system of government as well. So, mate, as I said, mate, with these ones, I hit play and I set you off like a wind-up toy. So where do you want to take this one?
All right, well, just to recap, all right, so I know where we're going, right? We were waffling on and talking about things, and then I sort of stopped it and said, well, this is all lovely, Steve, but there's only 4 questions. Whatever else you do, you say, you build, you make, you dream of, is a response to your understanding, your perception of one of those 4 questions. So how you understand God, is he vindictive? Is he coming to get you? Is it judgment? Is it just the sort of planets out there and we're all sort of part of the nirvana thing and we all get absorbed? But is God seen and understood as benevolent, as of loving his cosmos, of being involved, of answering prayer? You see, you've got quite a different concept of an interactive God that's caring for you all the time and helping you with your own personal development of society, the nature of God. The nature of man then springs to that. Who do I perceive myself to be? Am I special? And special in whose eyes? Is it just an anarchy and life is worth nothing, that has no value, and therefore we can bang the person next door on the head or commit to, whatever? And the nature of society. Well, this then brings us to describing how then do we govern ourselves. And again, I quoted from the Federalist Papers, where one of the writers, this is American, and he says, if men were angels, we wouldn't need any government. But since we're not governed by angels, we're left to govern ourselves. So therefore, we have 2 things that we have to look at. Firstly, how does government govern its society and citizens? And secondly, how does government govern itself? Good questions, huh? So that's what we're stuck with. How does good government exist and how does government define itself? The nature of man's society. And now we're up to the big one. And there's a book that, what is it, The Meaning of Life? Isn't it Douglas Adams? He's got 5 books in the trilogy. Think about that. 5 books in the trilogy. And what is the meaning of life, the universe and everything? But they're that sort of fundamental sort of question. So we're up for it. But when you talk about the meaning of life, you're not just talking about me, as it were, standing here on the corner next to the lamppost looking at the buses go by. You're actually talking about how you define yourself in the context of your future. What is the meaning? It's a verb. It's where you're going. So we have some choices here as to how we perceive our future. And that is what even the writing of the Declaration of Independence, of course, American, and even writing our Constitution, all has to do with going forward. There's a good big word. So the question is, what sort of a society and what sort of people do we want to define ourselves to be?
Yeah, so, I guess that's a big focus of Australians for Better Government. It's like, how do we improve our system of government? But that's one thing to say that. The other question is, well, why are we trying to improve the system of government? What are some of the reasons as to why it's important to focus on government? My view is that there's four fundamental things. We want a good government to protect the individual. We want good government to protect the culture of the country. We want good government to protect the family, and also we want to protect the country itself and make the country strong and prosperous. Do you think I'm on the right track with that?
Yeah, hold that thought. We're going to jump on that in the second breath. The first breath is that Aristotle was sitting on a beach. And I think there was something about us sitting in a tub. But along came the king to ask him some question as the silly old bugger sat on the beach, pondering his navel or the sky, and wanted some answers to questions. And it wasn't just Aristotle, but there was a Greek understanding of human endeavor. And they decided that there were several different levels of virtues, of pursuing excellence. So Aristotle decided, what is it that people really want? What is it that you want? He cried out like Socrates into the night sky. And he decided that what people wanted was happiness. Well, right, take a puff on that, happiness. But happiness, the Greeks and he didn't define as feeling good. Like, I've had a great barbecue and the sun's going down and I got a wine in my hand and a woman or a fellow, meaning if you're a man, you got a woman on your arm, and if you're a woman, you got a man on your arm. Only two categories. That sort of an afternoon. He decided that happiness is actually a word that describes achieving your personal best. And the word is arete, and it's excellence, the word for pursuing excellence. And I found it interesting. I was watching last year's sports, swimming, it must have been the Olympics, and this young woman jumps out of the pool and she's all huffing and puffing, and the reporter, somebody hands her a towel and as she wraps herself up, the reporter says, well, how did you get on, love? And she says, oh, I didn't win, but I gave it my PB. You gave it your PB? You gave it your PB? I sort of get lost. She was saying she gave it her personal best, and it was pure Aristotle that she was giving it her personal best, and therefore she was satisfied or happy. Extremely important of this business of reaching your own personal best in life. We're off the topic a bit here, but Aristotle and friends say, well, if you're going to be a soldier, be a good soldier. You've got to think about that one. If you're going to be a policeman or a teacher, then do your best at what you do to give you satisfaction. So hold that thought about how do we do our best for society. But you then mentioned the business about, and you sort of grabbed hold of a few things about, well, what do we want our society? And it's interesting that you and people listening to this just basically know what we want. We want a secure country. We don't want people running up the streets and looting shops and firing bullets at each other. We don't want people smashing into our houses or cars. We want security. We want somewhere the kids can go to school. And there's a number of other things that you mentioned in there, apart from safety and security. We also want a home. We want our own possessions. We want to care for our kids. So we want education. We want healthcare, policing, think of all the other things. But the big thing in there that makes it possible, that I believe you just mentioned, is the word prosperity. If a country is not prosperous, it's not going anywhere. That makes sense? And I remember Peter Drucker, the famous business guru, saying to me years ago, he said, in this new changing world, you too will need to be willing to change every 4 years in order to keep up with the changes that are taking place within your society. But where you forsake entrepreneurial initiative, where you slow it down, then your society is not going anywhere. So the question is, do you want a prosperous society whereby you have innovation, entrepreneurial skill, where people have the ability and the right to make money? Sure, we need some regulations that the poor aren't just left behind and used and abused. But you've got this choice between rather a prosperous society and a socialist society. Which one are we?
Currently, we're socialists, I would say.
Karl Marx could not believe how socialist we are. And if you look at our budget, they say, oh, you spend so much on this and so much of that. what is it, 1/3 of our population are on government benefits of some sort. 1/3 of the country. It's insanity that we have so much dependency. You know, when I hear a story about a person on NDIS, and they're in a wheelchair, but I'm not criticising the person, and they do need care. But when by the time NDIS gets finished with handing this person money to spend on his services, he's getting $1 million a year. $1 million, to pay everybody else to look after him. There's something really the matter with our distorted system. But we're a socialist country. That's what we believe in. It's not just equality. It's basically a system of inequality where we're going to tax from the rich to give to the poor. Well, there's nothing equal about that. It's an unequal society in order to benefit those who have not. So it's totally Marxist in as much as we take from the rich or the bourgeois to give to the proletariat. So there's nothing equal or prosperous by nature. And I mean, you read every day on Sky News or whatever you're watching or listening to of another company closing down. They've had enough. They're packing up. They're going to cut a loss and they're leaving Australia because there is no opportunity for advancement. There's so many regulations. It's just insanity to try and even think about prosperity here. So we have backed ourselves into a definition of the meaning of life where benevolence means more than opportunity.
I want to pick up on something you're talking about. You're talking about excellence when it comes to the individual and achieving your best. I mean, do you think that relates to country as well? I mean, I think when I go into vote, I think to myself, what candidate, what party, what government could potentially help Australia reach its true potential? When I say reaching its true potential, we're talking about excellence. How do we get Australia to excel? And I think if you're on a right side of politics, you'd probably look back at the Howard and Costello era and say, well, they really helped this country, achieve excellence. If you're a Labor voter, you're probably looking at the Hawke and Keating era and thinking about the reforms, the economic reforms in particular that they achieved. I mean, that helped Australia achieve excellence. I think that's a big component, but another component is people out there that say, just, what's in it for me? I'm going to vote. What's in it for me? What benefits can I get? What support can I get from the government? And I think in terms of, trying to think about why you have those two people, one that wants excellence for the country and one that's just in it for themselves. And I think about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If we get to a situation where people are not having to worry about their survival as much and they're comfortable, do they start focusing on the country more and the excellence of the country? I mean, is that a big part of it?
Now, let me just get, if people become more comfortable, they will focus on the country. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Or the opposite?
Instead of thinking about themselves, like if they're struggling to survive, they could care less about how the country goes. They just want, a handout from the government or, whatever it might be.
Yeah, you're right. We've become the comfortable society. I mean, we're no longer an homogenous society where people share the same values. You see, when people become citizens of this country, they should be actually signing something or putting their hand up and pledging that I'm willing to give up my allegiance to all and other rulers, or whatever they call them, dominions, and I will defend this country. Oh, no, I might have to leave and go somewhere else if you want me to actually fight for the society that's been feeding my wonderful, carefree, comfortable life. Oh, no, I couldn't do that. It's in that period of comfort that we are neglecting our service to, what was it that Kennedy said? Don't think about what the country can do for you. I'm going to get this wrong, but I like it. I like my quote. Don't think about what the country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Where is the service? Where is putting our country first? And I look at the kids on the phone, and I mean, they're so locked into this little box, getting their endorphin kicks with every time they turn a page, but you basically got to sort of slap them or push them or something to get them to wake up. Do you know what's going on around your world? Do you realize that you're part of a system where you are just becoming alienated, self-defined, self-imposed alienation from the very society that sustains their existence? So they say, go on.
I just want to cut in because, like, one of the things I noticed when we hold events for Australians for Better Government, also political events as well. I mean, I've been to a whole host of branch meetings for different parties. It's generally an older crowd, grey-haired people that are in retirement. I guess they're more comfortable, but they have a real focus on the country and the direction of the country, and they want to see the country succeed. And a lot of people often say, well, where are the younger ones? Why are they not concerned? And the answer that comes back is, well, they're busy. They're trying to raise a family. They're trying to work.
Rubbish.
They can't focus on the country. Do you think it's rubbish?
Oh, it's rubbish. I don't think they're busy at home at all, with more things to do than I've got to do. To take an interest in where your society is going. I don't know. I'm supposed to be retired. I mean, I get up in the morning and think, how many things am I going to achieve today to get through it? And I mean, apart from the work I do to try and fix up my house and sustain my life, I mean, there's just hours and hours every day and every week I'm making a contribution to where this country's going. And I suppose, of my generation, but certainly the people before me would say, well, of course you are. That's what we do. We love our country, have pride in our country. When we get up at the Olympics and we wave our flag for our competitors, it's because we love this blasted, bloody, great country. But the people that sit at home, well, what is it? It's sort of Les sitting on the lounge watching it all on TV. Pass me the popcorn. So we're no longer involved, but we're bloody well got to be. Because, as I just pointed out, we are no longer the homogenous society that just argued over the content of us becoming a nation. We are now a fractured, tribal, diversified society. And if we don't get in now and start to do something about protecting, preserving, promoting the values, let's talk about that we see as valuable, we're moving towards anarchy. I mean, fancy a group getting up at the Labor conference that's on at the moment and saying, we don't like the Australian flag.
Yeah.
Well, mate, what was it, 86, we finally cut the ribbon for all the Irish that don't like the English and said, all right, England said, we will have nothing else to do with any of your politics. It's all just a facade. The king will just be there and he'll visit every now and again and you can sort of say he's still your king, but it means nothing. We'll have nothing to do with your politics. So, all right. But we do like our flag. I mean, that Union Jack, regardless of what it might mean, it looks good. I mean, can you imagine our flag without the Union Jack in the corner? I mean, that's us.
But it does represent our history as well. I mean, you can't erase that. And it's been demonized, but when you really consider it, I mean, you had the first fleet arrived on the shores of Australia in some old rickety timber boats, and they built this country. I mean, take the British side out of it and just focus on the humanity. There weren't many of them, but they've come here and they've built this wonderful country. I mean, that's a feat of humanity that we should be celebrating.
Yeah. Read my book, mate. You're going to love. You're going to love Leaders. I mean, it's all about these guys, and so many of them are in their 20s. I mean, when I read that Matthew Flinders in his blasted timber boat goes around New Zealand and says the storms are worse than Scotland, and then he's back at age 29 and he circumnavigates Australia. And William and Wentworth, it comes back from England. He's 21 or 22 and starts the Australian newspaper. I mean, it's just incredible. And all these other people in their 20s and their 30s, by the time they're in their 30s, in the first round of things, Lachlan Macquarie, he's only here a few weeks and he's off to a dinner at this fellow Ryby's house, I think. Simeon Lord. And he sits down and he's got 4 men and their wives there. And these guys in their 30s, ex-convicts, are all millionaires. The 4 of them are millionaires. in their 30s. There was young men with visions, and they wanted to build a country, and we've lost it, but we need to get it back.
So what you're really talking about is unifying the country under one culture that can really strive to build that prosperity. And that is the first step when you're really asking the question, how do we build a better government? Because you need the population first to get on board. They say politics is downstream from culture. You need to define what that culture is and unify everyone behind it.
Yeah, good. Now, Pauline Hanson got into trouble, this week by saying we need to be homogenous and we need to be one culture or mono, whatever, a culture. Hold this thought for a minute. I remember years ago there was a movie called They're a Weird Mob, if you're old enough to remember. And here's a fellow from Italy, he doesn't speak English, and he comes along and he's in the pub and they're teaching him how to drink a beer and all the rest of it. As he's being absorbed into the society, and they're patting him on the back and sharing life with him, etc. But in this movie, and even now, when we say we want to be one culture, if you just sort of say, oh, we all want to have one religion, well, that's not going to work. Or we all want to watch the cricket, or we all want to watch this and this and this. Doesn't really work, even if you all were of British descent. There is diversity in society. Where we become one culture is we hold on. What's the American thing? The land of opportunity. I don't know how big that is. We were the land of opportunity. Where is our opportunity? Where is it that we share that we are going to do something together in creating a society that is secure and prosperous and has all those other things together? So, we don't care what language you spoke of. We do want you to share, I think, the fundamental values of giving the guy next door a fair go. When the house is burning down, or we need friends in the bush to put out fires, that you will be there. When there's someone in need, whether their car is burning or whatever, you'll pull over, you'll give someone a lift. I mean, they're our values that we care about those beside us. So it's that prosperity that will get together the people, as it did in that movie, The Weird Mob. It was where we're going. And here comes the problem. Where are our leaders? Where is our vision? I was sitting talking to a fellow last year about all of this. And, he's in the book business, publishing business. And he just sort of looked and he frowned and he said, Queensland is bigger than Europe. We haven't even started to develop yet. And I went, wow. I mean, what an idea that we haven't even started to develop. And so we're so confined our own visions of what's possible by not, and I have to watch all these sci-fi movies of people having the same conflicts with the Vogons or whoever in space. They seem to all sort of thought, but I mean, where are we going? Where's our country going? What is our vision of where we want to be? And this brings us to the nature of our government as well.
Yeah, well, there's too much focus on what divides us. And I remember growing up, my mother was studying psychology. She's a psychologist now. But I remember her talking about, like, if you were to just take people and put them in an all-white society, then they would divide also. They would divide on religion, or they would divide, they're redheads. Let's put the red outcasts redheads. Like, humans have that in them when they're always dividing no matter what. I mean, you're never going to get just a pure society of blonde hair and blue eyes. It's just not genetically possible. So there's always that division there, but we need to move past that and focus on what unifies us. And I mean, we're all one human race. So
yeah, you're right. I mean,
that's where culture comes in, right? It's a unifying system.
Yeah, you've got the two things. One is, I'm an individual, as they say in the life of Brian, and the one guy says I'm not. I'm all in it. So we're all individuals, and that's the way we're made. That's part of the beauty. I couldn't stand it if we're all robots and all the same. Who would? And, what sort of music would we have? It was all just coming out of AI, that's sort of, there's that creativity that's there as part of the individual. Having said that, there's also the need within all humans to be tribal, to be social, to care for one's family, to belong to one's family. So, yes, they're always in tension when it comes to it. And what we are now in a phase of, we're so comfortable as individuals. How are we defining our country? You see, if I'm in a football team and we're running towards the goal, and we're going to get up there, and I've done it, blood and mud, trying to get through the other fellas to get to the thing. I'm not stopping to say to the guy next to me, "Oh, what do you believe in? What colour are you? Or who's your mother or your father?" Other silly questions. We're in it to get an achievement together. We are operating as a small society of 13 or so players to achieve something together, and we've lost it. What is it we're achieving as a nation? All I read about every day is another complaint, and we seem to be going constantly backwards in so many things. I look for who's excited about doing something for this country, and we're, I'm just sort of touching on. We're still sort of skipping around the edge here of the meaning of life and the universe and everything, but we're going to get back to it in a second.
No, but I think you're right, because when you go back to the 1980s when, it was the Hawke and Keating government, and they were pushing ahead with a lot of economic reforms. I mean, there was a tremendous amount of bipartisanship. The Liberals didn't push back at all. And in a large way, John Howard, who was opposition leader at the time, and some of the other figures in the Liberal Party really agreed with what Keating was trying to do with the economy. So there was no opposition. I mean, there was no pushback. They were working together. There was a real sense of let's do something that benefits the people. So, I mean, how do we get back to that? Because at the moment, our politics is so divided, and it seems like if one party says one thing, then the other party automatically just has to oppose it. Yeah. I mean, how do we get to a focus on, okay, let's put forward a system of government and then policies that really benefit the Australian people?
See, I was, I knew Gough Whitlam. I was very good friends with his sister Frida. Bob Hawke once approached my mother. Be careful about this. In a fishing club at Botany Bay, and without realising who she was or vice versa, he just asked her a question about the big fish that was hanging on the wall that my stepfather caught the largest striped marlin in world history. And so there she was. So she called me at 2:00 in the morning to say, I just had a drink with Bob Hawke. But when all this stuff came up about breaking up the system of the divisions of power, of the checks and balances between the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive, why don't we have a non-elected, racially based committee to sit over the top of that? When all that stuff came up, I remember that Graham Richardson, who I would have called a friend years ago, right in there with Hawke and all the rest of them, he said on TV about this silly thing pushed by Albanese in the same Labor Party, he said, I don't know one of my friends that's going to vote yes for this. Because, I could have a drink with Bob Hawke. Or when we won the America's Cup, what did he say? Oh, you'd have to be a bastard if you didn't give everybody the day off. It was such an achievement. I mean, we were there together, in so much of what we did. Why would you not want to push Australia forward? But we're now in a society where whatever it is, we've become blind to that. We have so many regulations. It's just ridiculous. Where is the team that's moving forward? And what you just said, that we've lost that sense of team in our government. We don't share that we're moving the country forward anymore.
Well, let's focus specifically on the structure of government, because that's where Australians for Better Government's focus is. If we're taking into the concept of the meaning of life and trying to achieve and reach excellence, if we want Australia to achieve and Australia to reach excellence for the benefit of all Australian people, what do we start to do when we focus on our structure of government? What are the solutions? How do we move forward and bring in a better system?
Well, mate, if I give you this answer, it's going to cost you. I mean, I can't go spreading this oil around for nothing.
Just do it for love, out of love.
Do it for love. Yeah, my life. We got caught in this thing called responsible government. And it seemed like a good idea at the time, but it was only picking up on what was already going on. And we think, oh, it sounds good, responsible government. Well, I've said before, it was a bit of a kumbaya sort of a thing where the Governor-General held hands with the legislature, and then he held hands with the king, and they all got on well. Well, while I want to say that it was really the Parliament that was running things, and they'd cut the Governor-General off of the legs in that system, 120 years later, we do need to rethink our system of government because we're not homogenous. We can't talk about conventions and all. That's just the way we share the same. We don't share the same values. And it's now time that we wrote something up that actually defines your rights in society, the structure of society and the limits of what society and, as it were, the king, the power brokers can actually do to get into your life. So we are at that stage of having another look at it. Now, I know you think that I'm inclined to think that the American system is a good one. Well, I suppose I am, but it's because I understand that the people that wrote it were having a good look at this concept of the meaning of life, with the values, the virtues that make up for what we want to do. So, but I've also said that if we got to the point of saying, all right, it's about time we rewrote the structure of how we operate as a society, then I said we wouldn't copy the American system. We'd probably get a couple of Americans to be on the committee to say, what would you change in your own system? So that we have something that's for, what year is this? 2026, if it takes us 4 years, that suits us as a people in this society now than something that was written 250 years ago. So we've got to watch it, but we're at that point of saying, how are we going to define our future? And it is a question of now saying, where does the power lie and how should it be divided? Let me pick that one up. I hear that question, Steve. When we came here, so I get reminded, Britain declared that it owned Australia, and that using the old Latin and Roman concepts of terra nullius, that is land that nobody rules, then the king just decided he was taking over the land, and so it was prescribed as terra regis, the king's land. And so where the king went, the king's civilization, the king's forces, the king's law went, wherever he went, where he declared it. And so even today, we don't really own our land. You might buy it, but you only own 6 feet deep. And if the government decides they're going to put a highway through your house, they will. Because it's what? It's crown land. It's still crown land, not public land, and it's not even state land. It's what we call crown land. So that's the concepts there. When we did the Constitution, there was some sort of moving of the cups around on the table, or the cards. And so we moved from, we had the opportunity of becoming terra populi. The land belongs to the people. And what we ended up with this sleight of hand is the thing called lex parlamenti, which is power belongs to the parliament. So when we all get all excited and we go down and vote every now and again, and we think, oh, this is representative government, it's democracy, we're going to vote for somebody. Well, you're not. You're actually just voting for those people that get you elect into the parliament, and the power lies in our system of government with the parliament. And he who runs that parliament is the prime minister, which is totally constitutionally illegal. He's the dictator. Whatever he wants, the only thing that controls the person who runs the cabinet, who runs the parliament, who runs the governor general, who runs the king, is the media and public opinion. But he can just decide he's going to tax us. What is the last thing? All the capital gains that you make on your house that you've been living in for the last 40 years, when you sell it, apart from the $200,000 you spent on it, and it's now worth $4 million, That's 3,800,000 that you have made on the top of, because we're not going to count inflation and the value of it today and how, if you wanted to build that. No, we're going to take 1/3 of that asset that you're leaving your children and we're going to give it to the government. Yeah, right. I mean, what's that? That's not fairness at all, that you've built up and saved your asset. And again, and 1/3 of it is just going to be taken away after you've paid taxes on the income to pay the mortgage that paid the interest rates to actually own that property. There's something really filthily wrong with the way this is going.
Yeah, well, the way that I see it, and largely the way that Australians for Better Government sees it, the first step is to start dividing the power in the government and in the parliament. Like we're meant to have a separation of powers here in Australia, and we don't. And you've explained that countless times as to why we don't. No. I think electing the Governor General is the first step, and then allow the Governor General to run the executive branch of government, which is the way that the system's meant to be intended. But in saying all of that, I think we need to move more towards putting direct democracy, building direct democracy back not back into our system, because we've never had it, but building it into our system to provide safeguards against governments that just want to do what they want. Because I think a lot of governments do things that are not popular. They're against the will of the people. But what can the people do? What can they say? Where's the accountability? Yes, they can write to their local minister. They can start petitions. They can protest. They can do things like that. But there's no real mechanism like a citizens-initiated veto or potentially recall elections that could stop a government from pushing ahead with laws that the people don't like. We need to start looking at stuff like that, because at the moment, as you said, you have a prime minister that basically runs the whole show, and his government runs the whole show. And where's the accountability? Yeah,
there's a couple of things there that are pretty obvious. One is, as you just pointed out, citizen-initiated referenda. Think of something. I want all children under the age of 16 to be able to get on the internet. Okay, I've now got 200,000 people that agree with me, and it's on the ballot. Whether it's a state issue or a federal issue, we, the people, have initiated this, and we, the people, are telling the government yes or no on this issue. I mean, that needs to be there.
I think sorry to cut in, but I think it's more serious than that.
All right, good.
We have a premier here in New South Wales that gets up in front of cameras and celebrates the fact that we don't have free speech in this state and in this country. And I think that's a fundamental right. When past episodes we've been talking about the fundamental rights that everyone should have. They're Christian values, whether you're Christian or not. I'm not Christian, but I mean, I respect those values. The fundamental freedoms that we should have, then that's where a citizens-initiated referendum would come into place, because you could start a movement to say, hey, we want a vote on whether we enshrine free speech in our constitution, and you do enshrine it in the constitution so the politicians can't take it away from you. That's the power of a citizens-initiated referenda. Let's stop just listening to people like Chris Minns, who's got this authoritarian streak through him, and celebrating we don't have free speech, and say, no, it's not up to you, Mr. Politician. It's up to us, the people.
Our problem, we don't have a Bill of Rights that says you've got free speech. What is it? 13 things. Just write 13 things that give you basic rights. Now, I've seen someone have a go. They've got some good name about the Commonwealth, I don't know what it is, Bill of such and such, but you've got to watch that it's not just another parliamentary bill that they can change, add number 14 or 13B. It's got to somewhere say in it that this is being put to the people, and it's now then in the cement because the people have said these are the 13 things that we believe in. And we desperately need that. Just to actually, you see, when they did all of this in America, it was because they had a King George in England that they thought was tyrannizing them. And it was really the Scots saying we don't want to pay taxes. There's a lot of that, a lot of tyranny goes on now. That was tyranny. So they understood that they needed to write something to protect themselves against the tyranny of government. And so do we. It's constantly there with the tyranny of government and walking all over people. And it's done with these regulations constantly. There's another regulation about what you can and you can't do. So we desperately need that sort of Bill of Rights that we know where we stand in this society. And it does need to be based on things like equality, so that you're not, but
we need far more mechanisms. Like, for example, like we are taxed into oblivion in this country, and the government's just going to be coming after us even more because they can't stop spending. They're addicted to spending. They're addicted to building the public service. And you may say, well, there's benefits in that, but there's also consequences in that as well. And the Australian people never get a say. I mean, we only get election time to maybe vote in potentially a better a government or a better member of parliament. But lately, both major parties have been singing out of the same hymn book, so we haven't had much choice at all. We need to build in mechanisms where we can say to the government, hey, you can't stop spending anymore. We're gonna set the debt ceiling, and if you exceed that debt ceiling, then we're going to a double dissolution. Start putting the accountability back on the politicians instead of just allowing them to rape, pillage and plunder us, the hard-working Australians, because at the moment we're getting taxed to the wall.
We are. What is it? 1/3 of the working population supports the other 2/3 of non-working population. It's insanity in terms of where our country is at in that regard. There was something else that you just said that was important. Oh, and it wasn't just the taxes and how much taxes we're paying.
The debt ceiling?
No, it's not that. It has more to do with the principle of government. What was it that you just said?
Well, I was saying that the everyday people need a mechanism, a safeguard to stop the politicians from just doing what they want.
We do need the safeguards to protect ourselves against what's become a tyrannical society. Oh, I know. The other thing is that when you talk about where do we get our virtues from, and we've listed out these things, and as we've gone through in the last few weeks, with these guys, John Locke and Hume and Spinoza and a stack of Frenchmen, you do pick up this business of the inalienable God-given rights that everybody is created equal. Now, that doesn't mean that we are created. Everybody's created under law, that you have the same opportunity, regardless of being rich and poor, or this colour or that colour, or whatever it happens to be, that before the law. Here's something interesting that people don't pick up. When Philip arrived here and he came with these letters patent from the king, the king declared that the Aborigines were British subjects, because where the king went, the king's law went, and there wasn't prejudice in that. And it didn't take me long to find. And the first law case in this country was where Philip gave permission for the fella Cable and his wife, Henry, and his wife, Susanna, young couple, had a baby. They came out on the ship. Their goods were on a different ship. The captain pilfered what they had. Henry had a bit of a whinge about it, and so that he had a bit of a whinge. And so David Collins, the Attorney General, said, yes, we'll take it to trial. And he was a convict in Australia that he couldn't do in England, who sued a ship's captain for stealing his goods, and he won. And we were a different country. We were given, you couldn't own land in England, but you could in Australia. Well, I found cases where it didn't take long before Aborigines were suing Caucasians in the courts and winning, because there was equality in this new country. But we've reached a point where we're taking it away from people, that opportunity, and we need to get it back again, and start to say, that we want opportunities, we want an equal country, and we want a fair go.
Look, we're getting to the end. We're running out of time, but that's okay because we're doing this series every fortnight. And I think maybe a good topic next time that we talk about is the Bill of Rights and what sort of freedoms we do need to enshrine in a Bill of Rights, because there also is an argument against the Bill of Rights. I know Sir Robert Menzies was someone that advocated against a Bill of Rights because he was concerned that of how the High Court would interpret it, and we can go into that. I don't know if you've got an opinion or not, Dr. Reynolds, but that would be a good topic for maybe next time or in the future. But To finish up this one, I mean, is there any closing thoughts that you want to get across to the audience when we think about the direction that we want this country to go in? Again, going back to what you said, the pursuit of excellence and the pursuit of happiness and striving forward so that Australia reaches its true potential. I mean, that would be a great thing, because we have so much potential in this country that has just been squandered, at least in the last 20 years. We could be so much further ahead if we just had a government that worked in the interests of the Australian people. So any closing comments on everything that we've discussed today?
Yeah. When Lachlan Macquarie sat in that room with those four rich men smoking cigars and drinking their port, and one of them talked about a guy called Adam Smith and how he had a new book out called The Wealth of Nations. And he described for Lachlan the whole idea of the economy of supply and demand. And Lachlan never heard of it before, this whole thing of prosperity. He said, "What do you want me to do?" That'd be a nice question from government, wouldn't it? And they said infrastructure, and then there's banking and infrastructure. We need ports, we need insurance, we need shipping, we need money, we need banking. Where is the government that's supporting, supporting those who are going to make this country prosperous? We are a country in disarray at the moment with all of the divisions, etc. And I get stupid arguments about, can you be a gender that's not really a gender? Men in sports, just to pick one, you're protesting about Australia Day. Who cares about the date? It's the fact that we are celebrating who we are. That's what's important. And you've got thousands of people that don't want to be Australian. Well, there's only one thing to say. There's the gate. There's the gate. If you don't want to participate, if you're not willing to defend, if you're not willing to give to this country, then there's the gate. Yeah. Because we do want to move forward, and it is not just how we feel now. It's designing a country for the future of our children, our prosperity. So we define ourselves based on the history and the understanding, our perception of those people that went before us. But it's that perception that now leads us to define our future. We need to reclaim our history, and we need to reclaim this country. We own the country. We own the government. We have one country and one flag. All right? Yeah, it's Australia, and I want it back.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is a lot of Australian-born kids these days hate the country, but it's the way that they're getting indoctrinated in the schools. But that's a whole topic on its own, mate, so we won't go into that. I do want to let everyone know about how they can follow Dr. Reynolds and also get his book that he's mentioned throughout the show today, What a Capital Idea. You can head to drchristopherreynolds.com and get a copy of his book, which is down here, What a Capital Idea. You can hit that link there where it says buy the book, and you can get a copy of his wonderful book that sells out every time we have him at one of our events. It's quite amazing how many books you sell, Dr. Reynolds. So all of that is up on your website. And of course, you've got another book on the way, which you will be hopefully launching very, very soon. As you said, it's off at the printers right now, which is very, very exciting. So I'm sure that will be up on your website as well. And I'm sure you'll also announce it on this show, which we do every fortnight, every Thursday fortnight, talking about political philosophy. I'm sure you'll let us know once it's fresh from the printers, mate.
What's that?
The book, the new book.
Yeah.
You'll let us know when it's when we can purchase it.
Mate. I thought you said something about Matthew Flinders. Oh, it was actually about the printers.
Yeah.
Great story, Matthew Flinders, isn't it? No, that is all incredibly exciting. All the work I did. There was one thing I did. I got onto the secret plan behind the whole New South Wales venture, and no one has ever written up the fact that there was a plan that went on to bring down the French. And the research I did was just just hours I didn't move from the desk. And at the end of the day, I felt like falling off the chair. I just sort of I so got into this story of this guy who brought down the French, but it's never been written up before, I mean, here's this incredible event. And we're so ignorant of our own incredible, wonderful history that you're absolutely going to love reading this book and meeting these people.
Yeah. Also, if you want to find out more about Australians for Better Government, head to our website, australiansforbetter.com. All our proposals are up there. You'll find that on the main page. Also, a link to our store as well if you want to get the ABG merchandise. There's hats. There's also T-shirts and pins, which are great. The pins are really good. Protects free speeches on some of them. I've got some of them here. This one's Enshrine Free Speech. Enshrine Our Freedoms. A couple other ones, Protect Free Speech, which is this one here. Really great stuff that you can wear around and support Australians for Better Government. The hats are really great. I'm wearing mine to work, so that's a good thing. And if you are in Gympie, also, we've just announced an event coming up. It's at the Gympie Bowls Club on Saturday, August the 15th. So it's coming up very, very soon in the next few weeks. It's called ABG Empowered, Strengthening Australia for a Better Future. And we're going to have great speakers, including Dr. Gary Johns, who's going to be talking about his new book. So you can come along and get a copy of Dr. Johns' book. Of course, he was a former minister in the Paul Keating government, and also now the founder of Close the Gap Research, which is focusing on the Aboriginal people. And that relates to his former book, Burden of Culture, which a lot of people rate very, very highly. And also the great, fantastic Katie McCallum, who Pauline Hanson actually came out recently and said that she's likely to be the candidate for Wide Bay, which is in the area of Gympie. So if you want to find out more from Katie, it will be a perfect opportunity for you guys to come along to this event. So it's at the Gympie Bowls Club, Saturday, August 15th. You can head to Humanitix and get your tickets. Just type in ABG Empowered, and you should find that all up there on the site, and get your tickets. And we'd love to see you there, because our events are a great way of engaging with the Australian public about these issues that we talk about these solutions that Australians for Better Government talk about. And we get a lot of great feedback as well. People come along to the events, and I've picked up a lot of things throughout the last year and a half holding events. People come up and say, well, you could do this, or you could do that, or you could propose this. And you do pick up some great ideas that I've added to the repertoire of Australians for Better Government over time. And that's what it's all about, having the discussion with the Australian people on how we can improve our system, come up with solutions, and focus on what Dr. Reynolds has been talking about today, about getting Australia to reach a level of excellence and real achievement, and hopefully one day reaching our true potential in this country. But Dr. Reynolds, thank you again for another great edition of the Political Philosophy Masterclass. It's been a great pleasure to have you on again, mate, and we'll do it all again in a fortnight's time.
Oh, just looking at your flag there, Steve, is that the new flag without the Union Jack in the corner? Well, you're sticking with the old model.
Let me see if I might be able to scroll out. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, we're much happier now. I wouldn't have slept tonight thinking that you cut the Union Jack out of our flag. Good night, mate.
I think we've got a great flag and we should stick with it. But again, if we do want to change the flag, then it should be up to the Australian people, and maybe not up to some of the unions out there. But mate, I've appreciated it. Thank you everyone also for watching. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.